The Galactic Archive on Valora Prime was the largest collection of knowledge in the known universe. It held records of 10,000 civilizations. It contained histories that stretched back millions of years. Every war, every treaty, every species that had ever touched the stars had their story preserved within its walls. Lyra Voss had worked in the archive for 3 years. She was young for a researcher, barely 26 years old, but she had a gift for finding things that others missed. She loved the quiet halls and the endless rows of data terminals. She loved the feeling of discovering something new in records that were older than her entire species. But today, she had found something that made no sense. She stood before a sealed section of the archive. The door was made of black metal, and there was no handle. Above the door, a single line of text glowed in soft red letters. It read, "Species designation erased by universal accord." Lyra had never seen anything like it. She had studied thousands of archive entries, and every single one had detailed records. Even extinct species had their histories preserved. Even civilizations that had destroyed themselves were documented down to their final moments. But this section had nothing. No name, no history, no explanation. Just a sealed door and a warning. She pulled out her communication device and sent a message to Commander Daniel Harper. He was a human military historian who had been assigned to the archive 5 years ago. He was old now, with gray hair and tired eyes, but his mind was still sharp. If anyone knew what this sealed section meant, it would be him. Harper arrived within the hour. He walked slowly down the corridor, his boots making soft sounds on the polished floor. When he saw the door, he stopped. His face changed. The tiredness in his eyes was replaced by something else. Something that looked like old pain. "Where did you find this?" he asked. "I was cataloging the restricted sections," Lyra said. "I noticed this door had no corresponding entry in the main database." "Commander, what is this place?" Harper did not answer right away. He stood there, staring at the red text above the door. Then he let out a long breath. "You should not have come here," he said quietly. "Some things are buried for a reason." Before Lyra could respond, another figure appeared at the end of the corridor. It was Archivist Terrell, an elderly scholar from the Kivari species. The Kivari were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Terrell had worked in the archive for over 200 years. He had seen more history than most species would ever know. But when he saw where Lyra and Harper were standing, he froze. His large eyes went wide, and his long fingers began to tremble. "You should not be here," Terrell said. His voice was barely a whisper. "No one should be here." Lyra looked between the two of them. "What is behind this door? What species was erased?" Terrell shook his head quickly. "We do not speak of them. We do not say their name. That is the law." "The law?" Lyra asked. "What law forbids speaking about a species?" Harper turned to face her. His expression was serious. 300 years ago, the Galactic Council passed a unanimous resolution. Every member species agreed to it. Every record was purged. Every database was wiped. Every monument was destroyed. The species behind this door was erased from existence, and their name was forbidden from being spoken ever again. Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. That has never happened before. In all of galactic history, no species has ever been completely erased. "No," Harper agreed. "It has not happened before, and it has not happened since." Terrell moved closer, but he kept his distance from the sealed door. "Young one, you must understand. The galaxy is full of terrible things. Wars, genocides, extinctions. We preserve all of it because history must be remembered. But what happened 300 years ago was different. What happened was so terrible that every species in the galaxy agreed it must be forgotten. What could be that terrible?" Lyra asked. Harper was silent for a long moment. Then he looked at Terrell. She deserves to know. If she found this door, others will find it too. The story has to be passed down somehow, or we risk repeating it. Terrell closed his eyes. You humans, you carry your pain like a weapon. Yes, Harper said simply. We do. He turned back to Lyra. Come with me. We cannot speak here. The walls have censors, and this story cannot be recorded. They walked together through the archive until they reached a small private room. Harper sealed the door behind them and activated a device that blocked all recording equipment. Then he sat down heavily in a chair. What I am about to tell you happened 300 years ago, he began. My great-great-grandfather was there. He was a soldier. He told the story to my great-grandfather, who told it to my grandfather, who told it to my father, who told it to me. We pass it down through the generations because we will never allow ourselves to forget. Lyra sat across from him. What happened? Harper looked at her with eyes that held 3 centuries of pain. 300 years ago, humanity was still new to the galaxy. We had only been part of the Galactic Union for 50 years. We were considered peaceful, cooperative, harmless, and then a species called the Vrakthan decided to test how far they could push us. The Vrakthan? Lyra repeated. I have never heard that name. No, Harper said. You would not have. Because when humanity was done with them, we made sure no one would ever hear their name again. Terrell stood in the corner of the room, his arms wrapped around himself. What the humans did was not war, he said quietly. It was erasure. Complete and total erasure. Harper nodded slowly. The Vrakthan made a mistake. They thought we were weak because we chose peace. They thought we were soft because we showed mercy. They thought they could break us by hurting our children. He leaned forward and his voice dropped to something cold and hard. They were wrong. The colony world of New Eden was everything humanity had hoped for when they reached the stars. It was a green world with blue oceans and soft winds. 2 million people lived there, spread across farming communities and small cities. Children played in open fields. Families gathered for meals under clear skies. It was peaceful. It was beautiful. It was home. Governor Claire Mitchell stood on the balcony of her office, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold. She had been governor for 8 years, and she loved this world more than anything. She had watched it grow from a small settlement into a thriving colony. Her assistant rushed into the room. His face was pale. Governor, we have a problem, he said. Ships have appeared in orbit. Dozens of them. They are not human. Claire felt her heart drop. Which species? Vrakthan. The name sent a cold wave through her body. She knew the Vrakthan by reputation. They were a predator species, evolved from pack hunters on a harsh world. They believed in one thing above all else: dominance through fear. They had conquered dozens of worlds by breaking the spirit of their enemies before the fighting even began. Get me Captain Cole, she ordered, and contact Ambassador Grady on the emergency channel. Captain Henry Cole commanded the small defense garrison on New Eden. He had 300 soldiers and 2 patrol ships. It was enough to handle pirates or minor threats. It was nothing against a Vrakthan invasion fleet. When he arrived at the governor's office, his face was grim. I count 47 warships in orbit. They have enough firepower to turn this planet into glass. Ambassador Ruth Grady appeared on the communication screen moments later. She was stationed at the nearest human outpost, 3 days away at maximum speed. Claire, I am seeing the reports, Ruth said. I am contacting Earth now. Help will come. How long? Claire asked. Ruth hesitated. 2 weeks. Maybe more. Captain Cole shook his head. We do not have 2 weeks. The communication screen flickered, and a new image appeared. It was a Vrakthan. He was tall and covered in dark scales. His eyes were yellow with black slits, and his mouth was full of sharp teeth. Behind him, other Vrakthan moved in the shadows. "I am High Commander Drilax," the creature said. His voice was deep and rough. "You will surrender this world to the Vrakthan Empire. You will do this now. There will be no negotiation." Claire stepped forward. "High Commander, I am Governor Mitchell. We are a peaceful colony. We have no quarrel with your people. Surely we can discuss a trade agreement or diplomatic arrangement that benefits both sides." Drilax made a sound that might have been laughter. "You do not understand. We do not trade. We do not discuss. We take. And we break those who resist." The screen went dark. For 3 hours, nothing happened. Claire used that time to evacuate as many people as possible into underground shelters. She sent children to the caves in the mountains. She ordered families to hide. Then the bombs began to fall. The first target was a school in the capital city. It was midday. 400 children were inside, learning and playing and laughing. The Vrakthan ship fired a single blast that turned the building into fire, and Ash. Claire watched from her office window as the smoke rose into the sky. She could not breathe. She could not think. She could only stand there as the screams reached her ears. Captain Cole grabbed her arm. "Governor, we have to move. They are landing ground forces." But Claire could not move. All she could see was the smoke. All she could hear were the screams of parents rushing toward the burning school. The Vrakthan ground forces landed within the hour. They moved through the streets with weapons drawn. They gathered civilians in the public squares. And then they began the executions. They did not kill quickly. They killed slowly, making sure everyone watched. They broadcast the images across the galaxy, showing other species what happened to those who did not surrender. Captain Cole fought with everything he had. His 300 soldiers held back the Vrakthan for 6 hours. But they were outnumbered 100 to 1. One by one, they fell. Ambassador Grady sent message after message to Earth. "They are killing civilians. They are targeting children. Please, hurry." But help was still 2 weeks away. By the end of the first day, 50,000 people were dead. By the end of the second day, the number had doubled. The Vrakthan did not want resources or territory. They wanted fear. They wanted to break humanity's spirit before humanity even knew it was at war. Governor Claire Mitchell was captured on the third day. The Vrakthan dragged her to the main square of the capital city. They forced her to her knees in front of a crowd of survivors. High Commander Drilax stood over her. "Your people will learn their place," he said. "You will watch as we destroy everything you have built. And when we are done, you will tell your leaders what you saw. You will tell them that resistance is meaningless." Claire looked up at him with tears streaming down her face. But in her hand, hidden from view, she held a small device. A transmitter. She pressed a button. Her final message went out across the stars. It reached Earth. It reached every human colony. It reached every ship and station and outpost. Her voice was broken, but her words were clear. "They are killing our children. They are making us watch. Remember what they have done." Drilax saw the device and struck it from her hand. He struck her across the face and sent her falling to the ground. "Foolish creature," he snarled. "Your message changes nothing. Your people are weak. They will beg for peace, and we will give them only pain." Claire lay on the ground, blood running from her mouth. But she smiled. "You do not know what you have done," she whispered. "You do not know what is coming." Drilax laughed. "Nothing is coming. Your species is nothing. You are prey, and we are predators." But across the galaxy, Claire's message was playing on every screen, in every home. On every world, and humanity was not begging for peace. Humanity was waking up. The message from New Eden reached Earth at 3 in the morning, local time. Within 1 hour, it had spread to every corner of human space. Within 2 hours, every human being who was awake had seen it. Within 4 hours, the entire species had watched their children burn. Admiral Patricia Stone was 62 years old. She had served in the human military for 40 years. She had seen conflicts and skirmishes and border disputes. But she had never seen anything like the footage from New Eden. She stood in the command center of United Human Command, watching the screens with a face made of stone. Around her, officers and analysts worked in complete silence. No one spoke. No one needed to. President Marcus Webb arrived within the hour. He was a tall man with kind eyes that had turned hard as steel. He walked to the center of the room and looked at the screens showing the burning colony. "How many dead?" he asked quietly. "At least 100,000, Admiral Stone replied. "The numbers are still rising?" The president closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they held no kindness at all. "The Galactic Council is sending messages," an officer reported. "They are offering to mediate. They want us to negotiate." "Ignore them," President Webb said. "Sir, they are insisting on a response." The president turned to Admiral Stone. "Patricia, what do you need?" Admiral Stone had been preparing for this moment since the first report arrived. "Everything. Every ship. Every soldier. Every resource we have. I want full mobilization across all human space." The president nodded. "You have it." General Frank Torres, commander of the Marine Expeditionary Forces, stepped forward. "Sir, full mobilization has not been done since the founding wars. It will take months to coordinate." "No," Admiral Stone said. "It will take days, because every human being is going to volunteer." She was right. Across human space, something strange was happening. There was no panic. There was no chaos. There was only cold, unified silence. Factories that had been producing civilian goods stopped their machines. Within hours, they began producing weapons and ships and supplies. Workers who had never touched a weapon signed up for military training. Scientists who had spent their lives studying peace began designing tools of war. Military academies emptied as every cadet volunteered for immediate deployment. Retired soldiers put on their uniforms again. Pilots who had not flown in decades reported to their nearest bases, and no one had to be ordered. No one had to be convinced. They simply watched the footage of their children dying, and they knew what had to be done. Dr. Samuel Park was the chief military strategist for United Human Command. He was a quiet man who had spent his career studying alien civilizations. He understood how other species thought. He understood what they feared. He presented his strategy to Admiral Stone and the assembled commanders 3 days after the attack began. "The Vrakthan have 15 billion inhabitants," he said. "They have a military of 200 million soldiers. They have conquered 47 worlds through terror and brutality. Can we defeat them?" General Torres asked. Dr. Park looked at him with eyes that held no emotion. "Defeat is not the goal. Destruction is not the goal." He paused. "Erasure is the goal." The room went silent. "The Vrakthan believe that fear is the ultimate weapon," Dr. Park continued. "They believe that if they hurt us enough, we will break. They do not understand that humans do not break. We adapt. We endure. And when our children are threatened, we do not stop until the threat no longer exists." Admiral Stone studied the strategic display. "You are talking about extinction." "Yes," Dr. Park said simply. "I'm talking about making sure the Vrakthan never exist again. Not just defeating them. Not just conquering them. Erasing them from the galaxy so completely the future generations will not even know their name. The Galactic Council sent more messages. They urged restraint. They warned about consequences. They reminded humanity of the laws against genocide. Humanity did not respond. Other alien species watched with growing unease. They had seen wars before. They had seen extinctions before. But they had never seen a species mobilize with such speed and such unity. They had never seen an entire civilization move as one, without argument or hesitation. The Kavari ambassador sent a private message to his government. Something is wrong with the humans. They are not acting like any species we have seen before. They are not angry. They are not afraid. They are something else. Something cold. Something patient. Something terrible. 2 weeks after the attack on New Eden, the human fleet was ready. 3,000 warships. 2 million soldiers. Every weapon humanity had ever built. Admiral Stone stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking out at the assembled fleet. Behind her, the commanders of every major division waited for her orders. "We will not broadcast our intentions," she said quietly. "We will not issue demands. We will not negotiate or threaten or warn. We will simply arrive, and we will begin. And we will not stop until there is nothing left." General Torres nodded slowly. "And the survivors? The civilians?" Admiral Stone's face did not change. "There will be no survivors." The weight of those words hung in the air. No one argued. No one objected. They had all seen the footage. They had all watched the children burn. President Webb appeared on the command screen. He looked at Admiral Stone and the assembled commanders. His voice was steady. 300 years from now, the galaxy will remember this moment. They will remember what happens when you hurt our children. They will remember what we are capable of. And they will never make this mistake again. He paused. "Go. End them. Leave nothing behind." The fleet moved as one. 3,000 ships turning toward Brackton space. 2 million soldiers preparing for war. And in the silence of space, humanity went hunting. The first Rakton military outpost was called Station Krava. It sat at the edge of Rakton space, a massive structure bristling with weapons and filled with 10,000 soldiers. It had never been attacked. No species in the galaxy was foolish enough to challenge the Vrakthan in their own territory. When the human fleet appeared, the Vrakthan commander sent an immediate transmission. "Identify yourselves and state your purpose. Failure to respond will result in your destruction." The human fleet did not respond. The Vrakthan commander waited 10 minutes. Then he sent another message. "This is your final warning. Identify yourselves or we will open fire." Again, no response. The commander was confused. Every species negotiated. Every species talked. That was how things were done in the galaxy. Then the human ships opened fire. Lieutenant Commander Kyle Bennett led the first fighter squadron. He was 31 years old, and he had never killed anyone before. He had joined the military to protect people, not to destroy them. But when he had seen the footage from New Eden, something inside him had changed. His squadron moved through the battle with perfect precision. They hit the station's power systems first, then its communications, then its weapons. They did not give the Vrakthan time to fight back. They did not give them time to flee. Within 2 hours, Station Krava was silent. 10,000 Vrakthan soldiers were dead. Admiral Stone moved the fleet to the next target without a word. Over the next 6 months, the human campaign continued without pause. They moved through Vrakthan space like a wave of destruction, hitting every military installation, every supply depot, every communication hub. The Vrakthan tried to fight back. They gathered their fleets and launched counterattacks. But humans did not fight like other species. They did not follow the rules of war. They did not take prisoners. They did not accept surrenders. Captain Nina Brooks commanded the flagship Relentless. She was a small woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. She led the assault on the Vrakthan's largest shipyard, where they built their warships. Captain, the shipyard is transmitting a surrender signal, a communications officer reported. Captain Brooks looked at the massive structure on her view screen. It held 50,000 Vrakthan workers and soldiers. Continue the attack, she said. Captain, they are surrendering. The laws of war require us to accept. Brooks turned to face her officer. Her voice was calm and cold. We are not at war. We are erasing a species that killed our children. Continue the attack. The shipyard burned. On the ground, Sergeant Maria Santos led infantry units that liberated worlds the Vrakthan had previously conquered. These were planets filled with species that had lived under Vrakthan rule for generations. They expected the humans to claim the worlds as their own. They expected new masters. Instead, the humans freed them and asked for nothing. Go home, Sergeant Santos told the survivors of one liberated world. Rebuild your lives. We do not want your planet. We only want to destroy the ones who hurt us. The freed species watched in amazement as the human soldiers moved on without claiming a single resource. They had never seen conquerors who wanted nothing but the destruction of their enemy. Word spread across the galaxy. Other species sent observers to watch the human campaign. What they saw disturbed them deeply. The humans are not fighting a war, a Kavari observer reported. They are conducting an extinction. They kill every Vrakthan they find. Soldiers, workers, civilians. They make no distinction. They show no mercy. The Galactic Council sent increasingly desperate messages. They warned humanity about consequences. They threatened sanctions. They pleaded for reason. Humanity did not respond to a single message. 3 months into the campaign, the Vrakthan attempted to surrender. High Commander Drelax himself sent a transmission to Admiral Stone. We acknowledge our mistake, he said. His voice was no longer arrogant. It was afraid. We will withdraw from all conquered territories. We will pay reparations. We will return your survivors from New Eden. Please, let us discuss peace. Admiral Stone watched the transmission in silence. Then she deleted it and ordered the fleet to continue. 4 months into the campaign, the Vrakthan offered to give up their entire military. They offered to disarm completely. They offered to become a servant species, working for humanity forever if only they would be allowed to survive. Admiral Stone did not respond. 5 months into the campaign, the Vrakthan homeworld came into view. It was a dark planet with red skies and black oceans. 15 billion Vrakthan lived there. It was the heart of their civilization, the source of their species. The human fleet surrounded it in complete silence. High Commander Drelax sent one final transmission. He was no longer commanding. He was begging. Please, he said. We will give you anything. We will do anything. Just speak to us. Tell us what you want. For the first time in 6 months, Admiral Stone opened a communication channel. Her face appeared on every screen on the Vrakthan homeworld. Her voice was calm and cold. You killed our children, she said. You made us watch. You thought we were weak. You thought we would break. She paused. You were wrong. The transmission ended, and then the bombardment began. It lasted for 12 hours. Every city was destroyed. Every shelter was collapsed. Every ship that tried to flee was shot down. The human fleet was thorough and methodical. They did not miss a single target. When it was over, 15 billion Vrakthan were dead, and humanity was not finished. Over the next 2 months, human forces hunted down every remaining Vrakthan colony, every settlement, every hiding place. They searched every corner of the galaxy. When they were done, not a single Vrakthan remained alive. The species that had killed human children had been completely erased, and the galaxy watched in horror and silence. 8 months after the attack on New Eden, Admiral Patricia Stone stood before the Galactic Council. The Great Chamber was silent. Representatives from 1,000 species sat in their seats, watching her with eyes filled with fear. She did not come to apologize. She did not come to explain. She came to make a request. The species known as the Vrakthan no longer exists, she said. Her voice echoed through the chamber. Every member of their species is dead. Every colony has been destroyed. Every ship has been eliminated. They are gone. The council members shifted uncomfortably. No one spoke. I am here to request one thing, Admiral Stone continued. I request that every record of the Vrakthan be erased. Their name, their history, their culture, their existence. I want them removed from every database, every archive, every monument in the galaxy. The Kivari representative stood. Admiral, what you are asking is unprecedented. We preserve all history, even the darkest parts. To erase a species from memory goes against everything the Council stands for. Admiral Stone looked at him. Does it? The representative fell silent. You watched the Vrakthan conquer 47 worlds, Admiral Stone said. You watched them murder and enslave millions. You did nothing. You sent messages. You offered mediation. You followed your laws and your procedures. And while you talked, they killed our children. She walked forward, her boots echoing on the marble floor. We did not ask for your help. We did not need your permission. We ended the threat ourselves. And now I am asking you to do one simple thing. Erase them. Make it so that no future generation ever knows they existed. Make it so that their name becomes nothing but silence. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then the Galactic Council voted. The vote was unanimous. Every species agreed. Every representative raised their hand in favor. The Vrakthan were erased. Over the next year, every record was purged. Every database was cleaned. Every monument was destroyed. The name became forbidden to speak. Those who remembered were told to forget. Those who had recordings were ordered to destroy them. Within 2 generations, the Vrakthan became nothing more than a whisper, a rumor, a ghost, story told in the dark corners of the galaxy. And humanity returned to being peaceful, cooperative, friendly. But every species remembered what they had done. Every species understood the message. If you hurt human children, humanity will not just defeat you. They will erase you from existence. In the small room on Valora Prime, Commander Daniel Harper finished his story. His voice had grown tired. His eyes were distant, lost in memories that had been passed down through generations. Lyra Voss sat in silence. She could not speak. She could barely breathe. Archivist Terrell stood in the corner, his long fingers wrapped around himself. Now you understand why we do not speak of them. Now you understand why that door is sealed. Lyra finally found her voice. Do you regret it? Does humanity regret what they did? Harper was silent for a long moment. His face was unreadable. We do not celebrate it, he said slowly. We do not speak of it proudly. We do not teach it in our schools or honor it in our ceremonies. But do we regret it? He shook his head. No, we do not regret it. The Vrakthan made their choice. They attacked civilians. They murdered children. They broadcast their cruelty across the galaxy as a display of power. They believed that hurting us would make us submit. His eyes met Lyra's. They were wrong. And now they are nothing. Terrell moved closer. Since that day, no species has attacked the human colony. No species has threatened human children. In 300 years, there has not been a single act of aggression against your people. Because they are afraid of us, Lyra said quietly. Yes, Harper agreed. They are afraid. And fear, as terrible as it is, has kept the peace. Lyra thought about everything she had heard. The attack, the mobilization, the extinction, the erasure. It was horrible. It was monstrous. And yet, she understood it. What happened to the survivors of New Eden? She asked. Harper's face softened slightly. Of 2 million colonists, only 12,000 survived. They were freed when our forces reached the planet. Most of them returned to Earth. Some stayed and rebuilt the colony. And Governor Mitchell? She survived. The Vrakthan kept her alive as a hostage. When our forces arrived, she was the first person rescued. She lived another 40 years. She never spoke about what happened to her, but she made sure the story was never forgotten. Lyra stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars sparkled in the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, the sealed door in the archive held the last traces of a species that no longer existed. I always thought humanity was the kindest species in the galaxy, she said softly. You help others. You share your technology. You ask for nothing in return. We are kind, Harper said. We prefer peace. We prefer cooperation. We prefer to build rather than destroy. But kindness is a choice, not a weakness. And when our children are threatened, we make a different choice. Terrell looked at the two humans with something between fear and respect. His voice was quiet when he spoke. Your species is capable of great kindness, but also great wrath. Harper nodded slowly. We are. And the galaxy would do well to remember which one we prefer to show. The three of them sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, the archive continued its endless work of preserving history. But behind one sealed door, there was only silence, the silence of a species that had made the mistake of hurting human children, the silence of erasure, the silence that would last forever. Lyra looked at Harper one final time. Will you ever tell this story again? Harper stood and walked toward the door. He paused before leaving. I will tell it to my children, and they will tell it to theirs. The galaxy may forget the Vrakthan, but humanity never will. We remember what was done to us. We remember what we did in response. He looked back at her with eyes that held 3 centuries of pain and determination. And we remember why we must never be pushed that far again. He walked out into the corridor, leaving Lyra and Terrell alone with the weight of history. And somewhere in the archive, behind a sealed door, the last traces of a forgotten species sat in eternal darkness, remembered by no one, mourned by no one, gone forever.